Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Empower Hour. This is our weekly broadcast where we share with you some tips that will help you on your journey as you try to move away from your history as a Jehovah's Witness. There are a lot of things that hold people back, usually on a subconscious level. They don't even know what's going on in their minds. And we try to address some of those things so that you can keep moving forward. We all want to move forward in life. We all have a purpose here. We got things that we're supposed to be doing here. And if we're are held back by our history, then we never create our future. So today we're going to be talking about the power of words, labels, loaded language, all that stuff that can sometimes keep us tied to our history without us even knowing it. The witnesses are very, very good about getting words locked into our subconscious mind, having us use language that's different than everybody else. If you were sitting next to a Jehovah's Witness in a doctor's office and they were having a conversation with another witness, within a few minutes, you know they were witnesses, mostly because of the language that they're using, right? What they're saying. And we just have a particular way of speaking, particular way of looking at the world. They say that the way you see the world is formed by the time you're about 8 years old. Before that, you don't really have a filter for information. So what the adult figures and the authority uh, figures in your life tell you as a child becomes the truth. So for most of you, you were raised as a witness or came in at a young age or was in it long enough for it to become in your programming, and it becomes part of your language. And if you don't change your language, if you don't change the way you see things, if you don't change the way you speak, it stays rooted in you. You are labeled by being an ex Jehovah's Witness. So remember this, write this down if you have a pen or pad. The words I am are the two most powerful words in language. I am. Because what follows those words is given power. I am. That's why a lot of people have issues with their self esteem and self worthiness because they use words like, I am not worthy. I am not good enough. You are speaking truth into your life by your words. You are claiming that you are this or you are that. You're owning it. Now, when you were a witness, when someone was introduced to you, one of the first three things you would typically say is, I am one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I am one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So you just define yourself by your faith. You're not even you. You're not even. A lot of times it comes right after your name. I am one of Jehovah's Witnesses. It becomes your identity, and that's why so many people are lost when they leave the religion. You go from being I am one of Jehovah's Witnesses to being I am an ex-witness, still defined by the faith, even though you're not in it. I am an ex Jehovah's Witness. You're much bigger than that. Watch how you use the words I am, because it will box you in. And a lot of times people are not moving forward in life because they haven't redefined themselves. The religion is still the thing that defines them. Even though they left, they're still defined by the religion. So know the power of words, know the power of the words I am. Now the witnesses have their own language. What do they call their religion? They call it the truth. Again, that is a word that will box you in if you keep using that word. And a lot of times when I'm coaching people or working with ex-witnesses, I can tell how much of the programming is still there when they keep saying the truth, the truth, the truth. And it's not conscious. We just got so used to saying it that we still refer to that as the truth. We need to stop that. You see, your brain knows what the word truth means. Truth is a good word. We all want truth. But what does your mind do on a subconscious level when you're applying the word truth to that religion, but you're not in truth? There's a kind of judgment that goes on in your mind where you're judging yourself because you are not in truth. You're still calling that the truth. Sometimes people tell me, Rodney, I left the truth when I found out it was a lie. Is that an oxymoron? I left the truth when I found out it was a lie. If it's not truth, don't call it truth. Never refer to it as the truth ever again. When you catch yourself, and it's a hard habit to break because we refer to it so much as the truth, it's a hard habit to break, but we must break it. We must see it for what it is. So when you refer to the organization, you might say the organization. You might say the religion. Some people say the cult. Some people say the belief. Just say something else. Get your mind separated from thinking that that is truth because you don't want to be the one not in truth. You don't want to be the one judging yourself as unworthy on a subconscious level, like you left the truth. Then that makes all your family's language make sense, right? You left the truth. No, I didn't leave the truth. Never left the truth. That's your reality, not mine. I never left the truth. I never was in truth. I am a seeker of truth. Stop using words like worldly. Look at the word worldly like a racial slur. Really is, right? People who are true racists do not look at people as individuals. They'll look at people of a certain race and just cast them all under this, label of whatever negative connotation it is. And that's what the word worldly does. Somebody might be the most virtuous person you've ever known. When I was a kid, um, I had some neighbors a couple of houses down, the Oyers. They were the most well behaved kids in my neighborhood, or that I knew, period, witness or otherwise. But they were worldly. They had the best parents, they were the best associates, but they were worldly. I couldn't play in their house. I could play with them on the streets, but I couldn't go into their house because they were worldly. Isn't that like racism? Pretty much the same thing. We weren't looking at them as individuals, they just weren't witnesses. So someone could be one of the most virtuous people you know, and they're still worldly. We're putting the same label on the woman that works at the homeless shelter, the person that's planting trees to replace the trees that are being cut down, the person that's making a difference and adding value to the world we live in. We call that person worldly because they're not a witness. And then we call the person who's dealing drugs worldly also. No distinction. It's the same as a racial slur. And the worst thing is to use that on yourself, calling yourself worldly. Why would you call yourself that? Well, you can call yourself that if you use the true meaning, which we will cover later, but in the eyes of a witness, never see yourself that way, because again, you are going to be judging yourself based on your years of programming of what worldly is. That's their word. They love to put labels on people so they can dismiss people. You see, I even go as far as to call a kingdom hall a church. I don't like any of their words. I call it a church. I call it what it is, right? I'm not saying people have to go that far, but I don't even call it a kingdom hall. I call it a church, right? I don't like any of their words. I don't like any of their labels. Sometimes we might refer to ourselves, or people like to refer to themselves as apostate, kind of taking ownership of that word. And we know how witnesses misuse that word. The word apostate simply means someone who has left their religion, usually the religion of birth. It could refer to someone who has left their political party. It's not some devil worshiper that's against Jehovah. And they came up with their own meaning to this. I don't like to use the word personally because it makes me, it's like I'm playing their game. I just want to be me. I don't need to use any label. I don't like to play their word games. Am I an apostate by definition? Yeah. Well, I left my religion that I was born into, But if someone's a witness and they were a Catholic before, then they're an apostate of the Catholic Church. It's just somebody who changed their mind, changed lanes in life. But I don't need to play their game. I don't need a label. I just want to be the best me. I want to look at the religion as something that I was once a part of and I left. I grew beyond it. It's just a season of my life, a long season, but something that I grew beyond. It's not something I have to fight against. I don't want to use your labels. The label of brother or sister. And that's cool to use if you use that in general, but I don't call witnesses that. I don't look at someone and go, that's brother so and so. No, that's Jim or Mary or whatever. It's not my brother or my sister. Lose the labels of the titles that witnesses have, right? That's not your elder. If you're not in the religion, it's not an elder at all to you. It's an elder for the people in that world. It's not a circuit overseer to me. It's a circuit overseer in that world. I'm not in that world. You're just Bob. You're just Ernie. No reverence. You're not my elder. So lose the titles. Try your best to stop thinking in a witness vein. The word spiritual really has a different meaning when you really get out of the witnesses. The witnesses, the word spiritual is all about your activity. They think that they can judge whether somebody's spiritually strong, spiritually weak, based on a person's activity. Spiritual is a very personal thing. No one should be able to judge your spirituality. Change what that means for yourself. A lot of people get stuck where they don't address that part of their life because the word triggers them. So they just don't want to be spiritual at all. Change the meaning of it. Some words you got to change the meaning of. The biggest word that people should eliminate from their language is words that refer to shunning. If you refer to yourself as disfellowship, you will be in a state of self-judgment forever. Lose the label. You're not disfellowship. That the disfellowshipping label applies to people in the religion. They might apply it to you, but you don't apply it to yourself. No one has the right to put that label on you. When you quit, you quit. It's like going through life telling everybody you dropped out of school. I'm a high school dropout. I'm a high school. It doesn't matter. After 18, you're too old to be in school. You're just not in school anymore. You just grew beyond the schooling age. You just grew beyond the witnesses. Lose the label. You talk to who you want to talk to. If anybody runs, it's not you, it's them because they're playing the game. You're not playing the game. I don't ignore people I know. I don't ignore anybody I know. I'm not playing the game. Right? Somebody wants to run away from me, let them run. I won't even answer the question. I've never been disfellowship, oddly enough. But if someone asks me, I never answer. I'm not playing your game. One time, somebody I knew growing up, I ran into him somewhere um, at a party. He was in the band, and he says, "Rodney, he wanted to talk to me, right? He wanted to do his little encouragement spiel." And he goes, "Rodney, hey, you're not disfellowshipped, are you?" And I said, "I don't use those terms." What do you mean? I don't use those terms. If you want to talk to me, I'm here to talk, but I don't use those terms. I'm not here to play your game, right? And I'm not disfellowship. I just wouldn't address it because it's silly. Because I tell you I have this label instead of that label, you can talk to me. It's silly. That's your silly world. I'm not playing. I'm not in that world. I don't use your language. Your labels don't apply to me. None of it does. We actually had a good discussion, and I dropped some seeds on him. And not long ago, I kind of peeked at his Facebook. This was years ago, but I don't think he's a witness anymore. He left. He left saying everything I was saying because he wanted to talk, and he just said, "I see your point. I see what you're saying. I said, I disturbed him a lot that night. So I need to find out what happened with him. But I just wasn't going to play the game. I don't play the game. Okay. Don't use it. Don't use those labels. I am. What will you follow after the words I am? Let those words be powerful words. Let those words be things that empower you. Let those words be something that helps raise you to your greatness. I am. I am worthy. I am abundant. I am powerful. I am someone who adds value to the world. I am amazing. I am gifted. Use those words and watch your life bloom. Watch your life try to measure up to the words you speak. You are the creator of your own experiences by the words that you use. So use words that empower you. I am. Always make sure the words that follow I am are powerful words. You are correct about whatever you say. If you say I'm a loser, you're a loser because you said it. If you say I'm a winner, you're a winner because you said it. You are the master of your world by the words you use. So make sure you use powerful words to speak over your life. The truth. Don't think that you are going to find the truth. All we can do as human beings is move closer to a truer truth. Every 100 years ago, you'll see how ignorant we were 100 years earlier. It'll happen again 100 years from now. There's so much to discover. When you believe you have the truth, you stop growing, you stop asking questions, and you basically defend what you know. That's all you do is defend what you know. Don't ever think you have the truth. It will kill curiosity. And this is why witnesses don't grow. They stay exactly the same people because to grow you must ask questions. To grow you must question things. There's no growth without questions, and witnesses are told not to question, hence they stay the same. So become a seeker of truth, become a seeker of growth, desire growth, and you're always free to change your mind in life. Remember, you're not bound to anything. Like when you were a witness, you're bound to the beliefs. Whatever they say, it's just everybody changes their mind at the same time. Be a seeker of truth and be able to change your mind if presented with evidence that is contradictory to what you believe. If you see a truer truth, it's okay to change your mind. You don't have to senselessly defend something. Witnesses will senselessly defend something. They're more interested in being right than in truth itself. If you were to show a witness a video that was rooted in truth, a court case, or something that is not apostate in their world, the way they use that word, if you were to show them something that was truth that went against what they believed, they wouldn't want to see it. So that means you really don't want truth. You want to defend what you know. You want to believe what you want to believe, but you're not after truth. And that's why it's silly to use the word truth in reference to them because they're not looking for truth. They rather keep their heads buried in the sand if that helps them to keep their beliefs alive. They don't want truth, right? You must ask questions to get a truer truth. Worldly. What is worldly? Worldly is when you're worldly wise. I mean, again, using these words properly instead of the way the witnesses twist these words. Worldly is not even a bad word. Somebody that's traveled around and just, experienced the planet and visited different cultures and just really soaked it up and lived life to the fullest. That's a worldly person. A worldly wise person is a worldly person, but they take words and they twist them. So, my friends, understand the meaning of things, understand the power of words, and use words that bring you strength. Eliminate labels. Labels limit you. Witnesses love labels. They love labels even amongst their members. What witnesses do with labels is they're able to discard people very easily with labels. Right? You ever talk to a witness and you're making too much sense and they're like, "Are you apostate?" They're trying to put that label on you so they can box you up and throw you away. I don't have to listen to anything you say if I can get this label on you. I'll throw you over here. Worldly, put you in this box, throw you over here. That's what they do. There's even judgment in the kingdom. Oh, you're spiritually strong, you're spiritually weak. There's judgment everywhere and labels everywhere to box people up. Remember, separation is the root of evil. Separation is the root of all evil. If you look at things that are evil, it's when people separate themselves, when they box themselves up, when it's us versus them. Peace comes from unity. We gain far more unity when we get rid of labels. We start to understand the oneness of all when we get rid of labels. We get less judgmental when we don't label people. We just accept people. We just love people. So let's bring our panel up. We got Jack, we got Dean, we got Christine, and Gary. All right, let's get this discussion going. Who wants to share first? Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, but because I want to say something about this whole thing, because that thing about the power of the words "I am" is so true. I never really thought of it that way, but it's really, really true. A couple of years ago, it must have been, I did like a Facebook post in one of these groups, probably this group, but maybe another one, where I basically, it was like a challenge to tell me about yourself, anything you want to say, but you're not allowed to speak in the past tense. And that was basically the rule. Don't speak in the past tense. And some people saw through that. And you know what I was going for is like, what am I today? What do I want to be? Not what was I, or how did I, what made me a damaged person? You know. Well, a couple of people caught on, and they kind of, I don't know. So I guess they did they thought I was being a wise guy, maybe. I don't know, but they basically, or at least one person said something like, "I am a survivor who was part of a cult." And it just went on and on and on like that. So it's really talking in the past tense without using the past tense. So they thought that was like a loophole, you know. Well, I got it, and I understood it. And my response is basically that, look, I understand that it's not easy for everybody, and we're all at a different point of progress. I understand that, but this is just an exercise to, if you don't already do that, do it. Try to do it now. So what I want to say about this whole presentation is I know that we're all at a different point of progress. We've all come from a different background, we're different age, different everything. None of us are a cookie cutter. But these things work. Everything that Coach Rodney talked about today works. And what we have to do as individuals is take it and apply it the way we can, according to where we are and who we are. You're not going to do. Nobody out there is going to do it the same way I will, the same way Jack, Christine. That's okay. But it is very possible and very beneficial to do exactly what's been talked about today. To just lose these labels, every single one of them. I don't care if we're talking about the apostate label or the worldly label. Just lose it, or this fellowship label. Just do it. Try it. So nobody's saying like, you have to do this exactly the way I said to do it. I know Coach Rodney would say the same thing. It's not a cookie cutter thing. Like everybody has to do exactly what I'm saying to the word. But in general, just see this as this is really a good piece of advice to something to think about. And a year from now, you'll apply it differently than you apply it today because you'll be farther along. 5 years from now, you'll apply it differently than you did 4 years before that because we're at a further point of progress. That's why we're humans. That's why we grow. Jehovah's Witnesses don't grow because, like you said, they already have the truth. So there's nothing new to learn, right? So we are in a growth thing that's never going to stop. We'll be 90, 100 years old and we'll still be growing. So that's just what I want to say, is that this whole thing is for everybody in some unique way for every single person.
Yeah, if you had dirty water in a cup in a glass, you got to pour some water out to let some in, right? So it's carrying your past just doesn't allow you to create the person that you want to be, right? So we always say this: your windshield is a lot bigger than your rearview mirror for a reason. The past serves you to learn from. That's what the past does for you. Gives you memories to maybe smile about and things to learn from, right? But being hung up on it doesn't allow your focus to be put on the future. Your words should reflect where you want to go, not where you've been, right? So having these labels that keep you attached to something that you're no longer a part of doesn't serve you. Okay, next, Judy.
Well, I was thinking just practically we're always told it takes like 3 weeks to establish a habit. And of course we've had, I don't know everyone else, but I had 40 some years to have the habit of that language that's ingrained in us. So I have to make a conscious effort, like to correct myself when I say the truth or I say worldly, because it's so ingrained, to make different neural pathways for it. And they do have their own language. And I thought, if you left a country and went to a new country, but were stubborn to stay in your old language, you're never going to adjust there. You're never going to be able to fit in to make any kind of progress. And we kind of left the country of witnesses in that language. And you have to get rid of it. And it's been helping with your coaching and everything, but it just automatically comes up. And as soon as I say it, I'll be like, no, not the truth. The organization, the watchtower, whatever, just not the truth. It's not the truth. If it was, I'd still be there. But, I just thought kind of correlating it to learning a new language and unlearning one. If you want to, you go to a new country, you're immersed in it. And if I would refuse to even get rid of my old language, it's not that it's always there, but I'm not going to use it anymore.
I love that analogy because it's really cool that we have things that we do in this group that brings everyone together. But really, in the big scope, you want to be a person that is growing, that can hang out with anybody. It's cool to be around people that understand your background, but we should be wanting to grow to a point where we can be able to leave it behind and be around everyone, and be around people of a similar past sometimes, and be around the rest of the world at other times. Your analogy is so on point, because if we went to a country and all we did is seek people who are from our country, we would always feel like an outsider. We would always feel like an outsider. And that's what it's like for a lot of ex-witnesses, because they haven't let go of the language, and they haven't let go of the way of looking, the perspective of being a witness. So they always feel like an outsider. It's really probably a lot more fulfilling if you can hang out with everybody else, understand the language, and then when you run into your people, it's nice. It feels good, right? To reminisce and then have some people that can connect in that way. But you want to open up yourself so you can be multifaceted and move on, and be able to not just move in one way anymore. Thank you for that, Dean.
I just want to carry on with the way that Judy was talking about it, about going to another country. I just had a thought about those people that travel overseas and then look for their local franchises so they can have the same food, junk food, that they ate when they were at home. I always think we went to Thailand and they've got an Irish pub and the place is packed with Irish people. I'm thinking, you flew halfway around the world to go to an Irish pub and you're from Ireland. and the reason I'm talking about that is it's like when we leave, when we left, it's kind of we can't hang out with them because they're not very good people, because they're gay people, or we mustn't hang out with those people because they smoke, and we won't hang out with. And so we set all these limits based on what we grew up with, thinking that these people are inherently evil because of what we sort of grew up with, our belief structure. And yet some of your best friends are going to come from those circles that aren't exactly like you. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is that your friendships, your friendships circle that you have aren't these perfect like Venn diagrams that overlap 100%. They're about 80%. There's about 20% of that Venn diagram, which is so far out of the realm of my world. But 80% is what makes the friendship work. And sometimes I've got friends with that 20, the 80, the sort of the 20% that we don't overlap with. I've got some very dodgy friends sometimes on some levels, but 80% is fabulous. We're really good friends. But they do, they get up to their own nonsense as well. But that's their problem. I'm not involved in that part of the world. And I think that's the whole thing. And I think one of the notes that I made down while you were doing your talk was to say, one of the things that I had to fight was the sense of absolutes. In other words, this is the only way. And kind of, I think with age, you suddenly realize that, what I believe when I was 30 is not what I believe when I'm 60. It's a very, very different world. And I kind of, it's kind of like if you study, for those who've studied further, the more you study into a subject, for instance, at university, the less and less you realize you know. And I think that's the point, is that as a JW, we knew so little that we thought we knew everything. And then as we got more and more information, when we left, we went, Jesus, I hardly know anything. And I'm just kind of going, listen, I've just got a frame of reference at this point. There's no such thing as truth anymore. I just got a frame of reference. And that to me is kind of where I work it in. And I think the biggest thing is I've learned, and I still struggle with this, to be honest with you. I had a bit of a blow up this last week because I was going, this is the way things need to be done. And it's not. People do things a million ways. There's 6 billion people in the world. There's 6 billion ways things can be done.
Yeah, when you're a witness, it's like being a witness is like this. You think they're in this box.
Yeah.
And they know everything in this box. This box is the world, but the world is actually this big. But they think they're so smart because they know everything in this box, right? And when you come out and you see that there's so much more to learn, there's some things that I've just been, some rabbit holes I've gone down recently. Whoa, I will be down this rabbit hole for the next decade easy, right? Because there's so much to learn, and there's way more rabbit holes after that. It's endless. But when you're a witness, you think you know it all, and to figure out how ignorant we really are, right? It's mind-boggling as human beings, and we're just scratching the surface. So that's why we never want to think we have the truth, because we just defend that ignorance, and there's so much to learn. And that's why it's so cool to be curious and to have those friends that know things we don't know. Did you used to do this? I mean, let me ask you a question. I used to do this when I was a witness. When somebody would be talking about something I knew this much of, right? Just a little bit. I pretend like I knew more. I pretend like I knew, because I didn't want to look dumb, right? I always was pretending. My dad does that a lot. It's funny because the prisms that people look through. I was talking to my dad about a different kind of way of looking at spirituality, and because he looks at it only from the witness vantage point, he was like, so how many people think like this? Like there's a membership. That is not a church, right? But he only can see things from that way. So he thinks I'm speaking from some other church or some other leader. I go, no, it's just the way of seeing the world. No one knows a number on that, right? But it's the way he sees things based on his programming. Interesting.
So interestingly enough, sorry, did you call me or somebody else?
Yeah, you.
Okay. So interestingly enough, I was born in Poland and I'm an immigrant. So when I came to Canada, I had to learn English. It is a process when you start with nothing, and
Right.
people think that you're an idiot because you don't even know how to ask where's the washroom. It's tough. It's humiliating, but it's also, I think, it teaches you quite a bit about yourself and everything. And of course, at the beginning, you're homesick because you're missing your tribe, you're missing your people, you're missing your family and friends back home. But the quicker you learn the language, and the quicker you learn how people talk, the easier it is. And unfortunately, I know people who've been here for 30, 40 years, and they never learned the language. They speak very basic language. And they continue talking in Polish because they never went to school. They just work for Polish people. They live in a Polish community. They live in a Polish neighborhood, and their English is so limited that they don't feel comfortable picking up the phone. I, I learned English pretty quickly, but interestingly enough, I realized that when you speak people's language, right, then you learn so much quicker. Because if you don't, then you're just stuck. And like Jehovah's Witnesses, they have their own language, and they're stuck. Jehovah's Witnesses, they are really good at manipulating meaning of the words. They don't have to change, people. They just have to change the meaning of a word.
Right.
Just like so that was my awakening moment when they changed the meaning of the word generation. And when that changed, I'm like, what the hell? There's manipulation going on here. You're changing the definition of what the word actually means. That, just to cover up your mistake, that there is something wrong with it. And I wrote a book called Immigrate to Success. And I use the example of how immigrant goes from one country to another and has to learn the culture and the language and everything. And it's the same thing with our success. If we want to be successful in our life, we have to learn the language of successful people. One of the distinctions that I found is that people who will be successful, they wouldn't say, "Oh, this is too expensive," or "this is cheap." Those are the words that poor people use. The successful people would say, "This is overvalued or undervalued," because they know how to evaluate a value of certain item that they want to purchase or not, or investment they want to purchase. Nevertheless, they use different language, and by expanding your vocabulary, learning that things can have more than one meaning, you're learning quite rapidly. You're learning a lot about yourself, a lot about people, and you could be very limited if you have a very limited vocabulary. So I like the fact that, okay, you could learn what Jehovah's Witnesses were calling a pioneer, elder, worldly, truth. Great. You know their definitions. Let's learn other definitions, because there would be other religions who would use very similar language of, oh, these are my people, are my brothers and sisters. Well, maybe because they look like you, or they belong to the same church, or they are in the same country. But there's more than one definition of what these people use this word for. But the words have power, enormous power, and how we use them and how we apply them, how we use them to define ourselves, how we use them to define our identity, will create and shape our future. 100%. It's a really great lesson. I think I call it a TV, transformational vocabulary. When you transform your vocabulary, your life will actually transform. It's a great lesson today. Thanks, Rodney.
You know what I love, Jack? I just thought of this when you said it, the word pioneer. We're the pioneers. What does the word pioneer really mean? We're the pioneers doing what we do here, right? Like helping the ex-witnesses to lose the fear and empowering people and giving them a soft place to land. And all of us doing this work, helping people to move forward and helping to add value to the lives of people that are leaving. We're the pioneers. There are people that go and talk nonsense to people for way too many hours. That's what they do. So you using the real words, the real meanings. I love it. Okay. Next, Christine, you got a thought?
Sure, yeah, thank you. Finding what we really believe about ourselves, our core identity, I think is the stepping stone for what you have in your life, or even just looking around what you have that maybe you don't like. It's looking at where's that core identity or that core belief, and it came from our childhoods, usually 0 to 12 years old. And that's the part to reframe, because you can, put medicine on a pain symptom, but it's looking at where's the root and why do you have the thing, or why do you have that belief. And I know that when you're rediscovering who you are, or you're not part of the same tribe or clan, and you're figuring out what does life look like for you, we go through waves of feeling low, or the ego trying to pull us back into safety, which it's there. It's like a barking dog. But when you are aware and can observe and not absorb what's happening around you, you have an opportunity to take that step back and say, okay, why is this happening for me? If I say I am such and such, but it doesn't make me feel good, one question that's really helped me on my path is, what must I believe about myself to feel this way if I'm feeling low? And it's usually back to a core root of unworthiness, some either fear of criticism, fear of abandonment or rejection, which we all have experienced through being connected to the organization in our past. And when we talk about like even emotions, which is really neat, I am angry. No, you can separate yourself from that too, of I have anger, right? So that you're not adopting, I'm a very angry person, I need to have anger management. No, that anger is probably helping you to get rid of old patterns and old dysfunction that doesn't serve you anymore. And so there's a purpose in everything that we're experiencing. And so even the I am, choose words that you want to embody, or the energy that you want to be in now in the present, and that just helps you to reframe where you are. But it gives you, I think, an opportunity to be curious and to be playful. Even we're human, we've come here for an experience, and so all of the experiences or things that we've been through are part of that journey. And really it's a rediscovery of who you are. I think many of us have done a lot of healing. We've done enough healing in the sense of, can you flip into more of that self-discovery of why do you have that thing, or why does rejection keep coming up, as opposed to being in a victimhood or blaming other people. It's just like when we start to own, that self-responsibility, that's totally connected to the I am.
I love the fact that you talked about the journey. And I use this example with someone I was coaching. Maybe it was with the women's group. Judy, I think I used this example, but did I talk about the hike the last time we were talking about going on a hike? Anyway, imagine this. Look at your life like a journey and like a good hike. Like if I were to tell you, who likes hiking here? Raise your hand if you like hiking. Okay, all right. So me, Dean, Gary, I tell you about this hike that's got, and I show a picture, and there's a wonderful waterfall, like a beautiful waterfall. And you go, man, I'm down. Let's do this hike, right? You get excited. You go and buy some new boots. You pack up. You got your backpack all packed up for this great hike because you want to get to this waterfall. And we park the car and we walk about not even a quarter mile. It's just like a paved dirt trail. It doesn't even feel like we started the hike yet. It's like we're walking to the hike, you're thinking. About a quarter mile, I said, there it is, right off there it is. We haven't even really hiked yet. Are you disappointed? Yeah, you are. It's beautiful. It's everything I showed you, but you're disappointed because you came for the hike. You came for the journey. Now, if we go on another hike, just these beautiful waterfall, and we worked hard for this, and we hiked a good few hours. We got to climb up some ropes and descend here and there. We fell a couple times, scraped our knees. We worked hard to get here, right? Most people don't even know where it is. Most people wouldn't even be fit for this hike. And we get to the end, we're like, oh my God, look at that waterfall, because we worked for it. We look at it differently. We worked for it. It's very fulfilling because we worked for it. So regardless of what our journey is, and for all of us, being a Jehovah Witness was part of the journey. We got to keep going. It's part of the journey. It's not the end. You don't just stop the hike because it's a little rough at this juncture. You keep going because your destiny, when you get to where you're supposed to be in life, it's all worth it. Judy, you had a thought.
So you did talk about that.
Yeah.
That was in the group. I probably tuned out a little because I don't like exercise or hiking, but I get it. So, just like inner chatter matters, and we talk to ourselves more than anyone else. And I think sometimes things that maybe we say to ourselves, we would never say to someone we love because we know how much it would hurt. And I don't know if they said this in Poland or in Canada, but little kids would always be sticks and stones break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Well, physical healing is much easier than words can really hurt, and we can hurt ourselves with them. So I'm always thinking inner chatter matters. What I'm saying to myself matters. I talk to myself, and I have to keep adjusting that.
Yeah. There are labels that we put on ourselves with our negative self-talk, right? And you never perform above that label. So if you think something's hard, that there's a few things that I've had to get over, right, myself, where I got books I need to write. You know why I haven't written a book? Because I told myself from my experience in high school that I was not good at that. But I'm a speaker. What's the difference between writing a book and speaking? You're basically writing down what you would speak, right? But I told myself a story, right? We all have stories like this where we put a label like, oh, I hate math. Right? I told myself that story too, right? And I can look at my life where that's hurt me because sometimes I just avoid numbers, right? And that's not good because I'm living to the level of the story that I've told myself. So I've learned to push through stories because they have less truth to them than you think. And you are capable of creating what you can conceive up here, you can achieve out there. Understand the power of words. Somebody had their hand up. Dean, then Gary.
Yeah, I just want to connect with what Jack said earlier, just about that whole thing about people coming from a foreign country. Because I know if you want to learn a foreign language, what they tell you to do is you do a couple of courses, then they call it immersion, and you go to the country that if you want to learn Spanish, you go live in a Spanish country for 3 months, when you immersed in the language, and that's how children learn. It's not from talking the language, but being in the environment. And I just want to put out one of the things which suddenly dawned on me as Jack was talking, was the couple of groups that I got involved with, sort of circle group. We did trail running. I was with Toastmasters for a while. And the more you immerse yourself in that environment, you start to learn different languages because there's different ways of talking and different ways of thinking. And you see people doing different things. And I think one of the biggest things, and I made a note of it as we were talking, was the sense of people who prepare to volunteer without any agenda. And that's something that I still struggle with, because somehow I always think that if I'm going to connect with somebody, there has to be an end point. And
Right.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like, well, where's this friendship going? Well, it's just going nowhere. Like, well, what's the point? Because that's not how I think. But when you immerse yourself in with these other groups of people, you suddenly realize that these people are friends with you just because they like you.
Right.
That's it. Like, no, there's nothing else. Nothing else going. They just spark you lekker. They think you really are a lekker, and they want to hang out with you. But that sense of immersing yourself with different groups of people, that you realize, you know what, the JWs, you were so immersed in that it's so difficult that you've got to immerse yourself in other stuff to almost wash that all away.
Yeah. Good points. Gary?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of jump back to what Christine was saying, and Judy commented on it too. Being about that version of yourself. I attended a class with a very well-known psychiatrist that was doing a extra credit. I mean, not continuing education credit class, and that's nothing to do with Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, even if 10% of his clients are JWs, probably none of them are. It has nothing to do with them specifically, but it works for everybody, and it's really, really simple. And I've with my coaching clients, I've used this very frequently, and it works really beautifully. You sort of need somebody to kind of guide you through it, but I just want to tell you that the basic idea of it is, well, he used the example the psychiatrist uses of someone who 10 or 20 years after this woman's daughter had a terrible accident that left her different for the rest of her life, she's still blaming herself and saying she's a lousy mother. And the psychiatrist is like, really? You're a bad mother? Like 20 years later, you're still a bad mother? So basically what he had her do was write down the main thing about her daughter that she's concerned about, or something like that. The main thing about this that concerns her. And then in another column, he has her write down, what does that say about you? And so, she writes down something about how, well, I'm concerned about my daughter. I want to protect her. I want the best for her. Everything, all my energy is devoted to my daughter. So what does that say about me? I guess it means I'm a good mother. Bam. That was it. She just had the wrong story in her head for the last 20 years. Like, okay, your daughter had an accident. Maybe you could have done something differently. I don't know. So we can apply that in any way you can imagine. I mean, I don't know. Let's say we're concerned about the fact that we're being shunned, and we we're past the hate and anger phase, and we just don't know what to do about mom or whoever's shunning us. This might not be the best example, and we think, well, I'm just a lousy daughter because I just can't figure this out. Yeah, but what? So what are your real thoughts about your mom? How do you really feel about your mother, even though she's shunning you? And it's probably going to be, oh, I love my mom, of course. I wish, So what does that say about you as a person? Well, it means I guess I'm a good daughter, or I'm a good son. Bingo. There you go. It's really, really simple. But it's just we create the story about ourselves. We put somebody can give us the I am part, and we fill in the whole rest of it. And it's completely up to us what we're going to say. But if you really, really think about why you feel the way you do about a certain thing that's troubling you, and then you think, what does that really say about me as a person? You're going to come up smelling like roses every time.
Yeah. Yeah. Judy?
So just like those words, I am, are so powerful. In my office, my children make fun of me for this. I have a handwritten sign that just has the word yet, Y-E-T, because like Rodney, Coach Rod, I'm sorry, I'm not good at numbers yet. Instead of saying I suck at technology, I say I'm not really good with technology yet. When you add yet onto the end of anything, then you can, I'm just not there yet. These are my natural talents. These are things I have to work on. I'm not good. I'm not that yet. So
I love that. I used to tell myself a story about technology. When I was back when I was married, I had a business. I had probably 30 employees or so. But we owned like 9 computers in my office, at 7, 8, or 9 computers. I didn't touch one. I was the computer illiterate. I was old school. I didn't even send emails. I had an assistant that would write the emails, like tell her this and say this and read back what she says. I did not touch computers. And here I am. My whole world is wrapped around computers today. I would, if my ex-wife or people from my past were to see me today, building websites and editing video, and everything is about computers today. And I was like, wow, how crazy that I told myself that story. And I teach people all kinds of stuff, things on the computer today. Well, what a story that was limiting myself, right? So watch the words, watch the story you tell yourself about yourself. Don't be one of those people that say, this is the way I am, it's the way I've always been, and using those labels and those limitations to hold you back from what you could be. Any last thoughts, Jack?
I was in a swim team, and my coach was using the same thing. She would not allow us to say, I can't do it. If she said, okay, if you swam for, let's say, 1 minute and 30 seconds, and she said, okay, next time you swim for 1 minute and 25 seconds. And if you answered, I can't, you would have to go 20, 30 push-ups. Because you were only allowed to say, I cannot do it yet. She always said, I can't do it yet, but next time I'll do it. And also, what I loved her about the way she was training us is that she would only allow us to compete with ourselves. So somebody was the fastest swimmer in the team, but he, let's say, swam for 1.5 minutes, and the next training he swam for 1 minute and 35 seconds. He just had a worse performance. It doesn't matter that he came first. What mattered was, did he beat himself? And then as somebody who was the worst swimmer, the slowest swimmer, but if he improved his own score, he was praised. It didn't matter that he came last. And then very quickly, our team became really, really good because everybody did not care whether somebody else is faster or slower, fatter or taller. None of that mattered. What mattered was, are you beating your own score? And you were never allowed to say, I can't do it. And believe me, it transformed everybody in the team. Very powerful words.
Y'all swam like the game of golf, right? And you're just competing with yourself. I love it. I love it. Yeah, very, 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 very good topic today. Just remember, everyone, watch your words. It's like casting spells upon yourself when you use words that limit you, because you will only operate to the level of your self-belief and the level of the labels that you've given yourself. So make sure that you leave the top wide open. Don't limit yourself. And also watch who you validate. People from your past and people who are still witnesses will use these labels, and it will affect you if you don't disarm those labels. So it means nothing to you. You got to keep telling yourself, I don't live in that world. Whatever you tell me is irrelevant, means nothing to me, not in the world that I live in. I live here. Y'all live here. This don't apply out here. So great, great, great session. Thank you all. Always grateful for the panel for joining. I know you all are out to have some fun today. Jack was chilling in that hammock. Makes me want to go play. So enjoy your Sunday fun day, everyone. Find some something to get into today. Have some fun, and we will see you next week.